Hi folks, and welcome back to Right Talk, production of Tilting a Windmill. My name's Dwight Lilly, your host, and this is episode 9. And today's date is January the 30th, 2015. Now the reason I'm doing this particular program and instead of waiting until next week is because I just got back from the Nye County, Nevada Commissioners Chambers, where there was a Pahrump Regional Planning Commission special meeting. The meeting was in the Commissioners Chambers, and it has to do with the ongoing saga between Utilities Incorporated and Nye County. And the district attorney of the county and the attorneys for the utility company had negotiated a settlement, kind of a peace treaty, I guess you want to call it, bury the hatchet, because of the importance of getting the former Willow Creek Golf Course cleaned up, the containment ponds and so forth. The Utilities Incorporated had protested a request that they file for a conditional use report. Now, conditional use permit, and they believed that they had grandfathered in rights and did not have to do this. And there's been an ongoing battle back and forth for months, going into way last year, and this thing had still been hanging around. And finally we got a new DA that came on board for the county in January, Angela Bello, and she, within just a matter of a couple of weeks, sat down with Utilities Incorporated and their attorney and worked this out. Now, what I thought was pretty amazing, I'll go into that a little while here, had to do with some of the complaints from the commissioners, a couple of commissioners anyway, raised some concerns, and there was some concerns from the during the public comment period from some folks that were not real happy with what had been going on, and they happened to live around that golf course. They used to have nice scenic golf course property, and now they got property that butts up against a cesspool out there. One gentleman that and by the way, I have video of this entire meeting. Like, I cut out some parts of it because I thought that was redundant or it wasn't really important, but I went down there with this camera and videoed the meeting because there was no TV coverage from any local news TV stations or anything. There were the reporters down there from the Mirror and the Pahrump Valley Times, but I thought it would be worthy to tape it and then let you folks see what transpired down there. You might want to note some of the complaints being filed by the people. Like the one gentleman said that one of those containment ponds, which is right back behind his property, has been spewing water, I guess water from the pond into the air 20 feet high, and the wind blows it over into his patio, and he was wanting to know if this material was safe. Did it have fecal material in it? Well, the Utility Incorporated president and representative that was there, she claims that that the water was okay when it was tested a while back, and she mentioned how much fecal material solids are allowed into the water to make it to ensure that it was still safe. I don't know about you, but I don't really want to have fecal material in water spraying on me, no matter what the government says how safe it is. It doesn't sound very safe to me. And she also mentioned that how the urgency to get this reclamation project going down there, because these ponds will definitely deteriorate and be unsafe in the future. So I guess we really don't know right now. There's nobody down there testing the pond to determine whether or not they are or they aren't. There was probably about 40 or 50 people in the crowd there. Maybe not that many, maybe around 40, I guess. And mostly elderly residents. That's who lives out there. These are people that retired and moved onto that property. They want to live around a golf course maybe they were golfing enthusiasts, whatever. And they've been putting up with this. I've mentioned this in the past for like 6 or 7 years, trying to get this problem solved. And one gentleman in particular came up to the podium, I think 3 times during the meeting, and he was complaining because also, I knew this was going to happen, and this also broke into the news the other day, that Utilities Incorporated has filed to have about almost a 10% rate increase for customers on their that they have in service here to pay for the work out there at the pond. And he felt, this gentleman in the crowd felt that, why are we being asked to pay for the for the work needing to be done to clean up what he considered the sewer companies, utility incorporated's problem. Well, I don't know how to break it to the guy. He's an elderly gentleman, but that's the way it goes. If you happen to be unfortunate enough to be hooked up to sewer here in the valley, water here in the valley, then you're going to pay whatever rates that the utility companies decide that they can get away with. Of course, you're going to pay for any repairs needed. Who did you think was going to pay for this? So I'm a happy camper myself, as is literally thousands of people in the area here that have their own septic systems that are working just fine and not hooked up to any utility company that decides to hold us up for ransom. Anyway, I'm going to probably stop here. Well, the final words that I have to say on this is going to be that let's just get this done. Let's get Discovery Park up and running. Let's get the ponds all put back into place, and where they're safe and they're not contaminating. They're not breeding grounds for any type of bacteria or blowing unsafe material out into the air. And as provided they have all the permits for any dust control or meet any of the requirements that the county planning department has put forth and the Clean Air Act has put forth and the ordinance of the county, I don't see any problem that we can't go forward with this. But I just wanted to give this to you today, this program, so that you can see what happened and get it right from the people's mouth. Anyway, I'm going to get off here right now. Bye now. Here at the January the 30th special meeting of the Regional Planning Board to discuss the utility company agreement at Willow Creek Golf Course. See people starting to become assembled here. Not many in the crowd here, but we're still a few minutes away. I think we're about 10 minutes away from the meeting taking place. The lady sitting down up here getting ready to is the head of the utility company here. I'm going to go ahead and shut this off until action takes place.
Mr. Robert Adams. Item number 3, public comment first. This time is devoted to comments by the general public pursuant to NRS 241.0202C3. No action will be taken on matters raised under public comment until the matter itself has been included on an agenda as an action item. The 3-minute time limit per person. Speakers requested to limit comments not on the agenda. Agenda items will have public comment at the time. Any public comment? Come on down, make sure the light is on, speak your name and spell your last name, please.
Hello, my name's Carl Jacob, and last name is Jakob. Yeah, I just came down here to get this on the record books. In the last RPC meeting, case number CU 2014-000001 was passed with special conditions of approval. I am requesting, if any of the conditions are asked to be waived or modified, that the RPC would notify the neighborhood of such action before it's being considered. Also to make sure that all the special conditions are met before the RV project is started. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Jacob. Is there any other public comment? Uh-oh.
I'm coming.
Come on, Dave. You're gonna speak on something not on the agenda, right?
Well, I'm gonna speak on something. You probably won't like what I got to say, but I'm gonna say it.
If it's about the golf course, you're gonna have to wait.
About what?
The golf course.
No.
Okay.
Something else here.
Have a seat.
Ponds.
Have a seat.
Thank you.
You gotta speak on the ponds.
The
If it's on.
ponds are on the agenda.
I didn't see it. Well, I gotta hold off until.
Hold
the
on.
ponds show.
Which ponds?
Huh?
Which pond do you want to talk about?
Well, it only take me a few seconds to make
Go ahead.
a comment. Just a comment. I haven't got anything written down or anything here.
Please turn on the microphone.
Dave Stevens, Pahrump citizen, high taxpayer. As I understand it, Utilities Incorporated got that property through bankruptcy over the Willow Creek yard. Am I correct? Well, now they was gonna find that Jim Scott and put him in jail for not cleaning them ponds up. Now, if they're gonna put him in jail, Utilities Incorporated ought to do the same thing, and we shouldn't have to pay the water bill. That's a crooked thing. They put him in jail, they don't put them in jail. I don't put Wendy in there, though. They should put them in jail, the big shots there. This is crooked, there's no question about it. I know you people are all honest people there, but I'm saying the truth here. If they put that Jim Scott in jail for not paying, remediating them ponds, I'm sorry I can't talk too good. I got spinal stenosis or something. I've been down. You know what that is, you know what I mean. I'm very ready to kick off anyway, but what I'm trying to get at, we shouldn't have to pay it. We're gonna put it on everything that the Utility Incorporated does, they put it on the water bill. I went over there in another meeting and I wasn't too pleased with anything went on there. And I know the people there, these people are they're not too smart in this town. And they were going along with it. So I hope you people consider Jim Scott going to jail, Utilities Incorporated should pay that, and we shouldn't have to pay any water bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
I
Stevens.
just made it just as short and sweet as I could.
Thank you, Dave.
Huh?
Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. I hope you people do something about that little spiel there.
Is there any other further public comment? Seeing none, I'll close public comment. Item number 4, for possible action, approval of the modifications to the agenda. Are there any? Seeing none, we continue. Item 5, Commissioner reports, Board of County Commissioner Liaison report by Carboni.
Knowing this is a special meeting, I didn't have anything special to say.
Thank you. Capital Improvements Plan Advisory Committee, John Koenig, I'll follow with the same comment. Item 6, ex parte communications and conflict of interest disclosure statements. Are there any? Seeing none. Regular agenda. Item 7, for possible action, WV.2015-000003. Public hearing, discussion, deliberation, possible action, or request by the Nye County Planning Department for a waiver under NCC 17.04.915 for an exception from the strict interpretation of development standards and a requirement for a conditional use permit for repairs and expansion to the UICN sewage effluent system in an open space zone on the former Willow Creek Golf Course, specifically repair and modification of 2 receiving basins and 2 pump houses located at 410 South Glen Oak Street, 1971 Upland Avenue, and Golf Course Fairway. Further known as Calvada Valley Unit 7, Township 20 South, Range 53 East, Section 22. UICN Real Estate Holdings and Utilities Incorporated, Central Nevada property owners, Nye County Planning Department applicant, AP numbers 039-751-08, 039-751-09, and 039-661-02. Further expansions and development on the golf course property will be done under a CUP or a development agreement. This item is final action by the Pahrump Regional Planning Commission unless appealed to the county commissioners. Staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is Darrell Lacey, Planning Director. Not going to bore you with all the details of the history here. Y'all are, I think, aware of most of it. But in general, my county planning staff had made a determination that a conditional use permit was needed for the development of the golf course. UICN disagreed with us and appealed that action, which is actually number 8 on your agenda here today. The negotiations to try and resolve the disagreements with this came up with what's number 7 on your agenda today, which is the waiver. The waiver is to grant a waiver from the minimum requirements that are to have a CUP for the whole project, but to allow them to move forward with just a remediation of the ponds, minor expansion of the ponds, as well as rebuilding the pump houses that go through that. That would be the first step of the golf course project. As your description here mentioned, the future development would require a conditional use permit. So what we have for you here today is the, for number 7 here is the waiver. If you grant the waiver, then number 8 and number 9 are not necessary. So we can essentially be through here today after this number 7 is approved. So for the details of this agenda, I'll pass it on to Steve.
Thank you. First, I just wanted to point out there is one error in the staff report on page 3 under external comments. That second sentence that starts off, Nye County Public Works supports any facts, findings, or conditions. That sentence should be deleted. That's actually from a previous case, so that's not a comment that Public Works is making on this item. The findings are outlined on page 2. We believe that there is a special circumstance in this case. Granting of the waiver would not be detrimental to public health, safety, and actually would allow the property owner to proceed with resolving the existing public health hazards relating to the effluent ponds. So the staff recommendation is for approval based on those findings and with the special conditions of approval of 1, 2, and 3 that are outlined in the staff report. And did that answer any questions you might have?
Thank you. Board, any questions for staff?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Okay, I had as several of us probably did, had discussions with UICN on this issue. And I came away completely confused as to their resistance to applying for a conditional use permit to do the work that they say is needed. I know there's been a there's a dispute as the requirement for it. However, we're looking at a waiver here that UICN has neither sought nor applied for. This is something that the planning department of the county is doing unilaterally because they've decided that they're not going to do anything. They're not going to apply. They're not going to follow the rules, the laws, like everybody else is required to do. I find that completely distressing. And I also feel it's a very dangerous precedent for us to grant them a waiver for a requirement that everybody else has to do. And I just have a very difficult time with it. Also a difficult time with your your condition, your findings, that, from what I understand, the UICN submitted nothing, to these findings. This is something that was just, that the staff just came up with. I have a difficult time with item number 2, where it says, described item number 1 above do not generally apply to other properties in the same district, and that's because all the other applicants have done what's required. It does set, I find it sets a bad precedent. Other utility companies in the valley have done what was required. They did their CUPs, they did their site development plans, they did everything that was required as a matter of course, as a matter of part of business. So, that's all I have right now.
Comments from the board, the staff? Seeing none? Applicant?
Mr. Chairman, can I respond to a couple of issues he brought up there
Go
before?
right ahead. I thought maybe the DA might want to respond also. So, go ahead.
I'll go right ahead, why don't you weigh in first?
For 90% of the proposed remediations at the pond, we wouldn't have even needed a conditional use permit. The conditional use permit requirement was only for a small portion, and that was the expansion of one of the effluent ponds. There was the legal dispute that's mentioned in the staff report, is in regards to whether or not that existing pond is considered a permissive use or a grandfathered use, and that's the legal dispute that we're dealing with. UICN's position is that it's a permissive use under that zone. Body of water is not defined, and therefore they can expand it and do as they wish with it. The county's position is that it does not fall under the definition of a body of water, and therefore it is a grandfathered use, and any expansion of a grandfathered use would require a conditional use permit. So we kind of got stuck in that position, our respective positions on that point. We're proceeding to the point where we're going to litigate over what is a relatively small issue, which is the definition of a body of water as defined in our code. I think both parties agreed that that was probably not a good idea to enter into for such a small issue. And so we said, for the sake of argument, let's assume, without conceding that a CUP is required, let's assume for argument's sake that one is, and we can just go ahead and apply for a waiver. Of course, that is subject to this board's approval, but that's kind of the purpose of this agreement.
But they didn't apply for a waiver.
No, and the county applied for the waiver, and that was to allow them to continue to maintain their position, because if they were to apply for that, they would be arguably put in a position where they would concede that they even needed a CUP in the first place. So I want to make it very clear for the record that UICN is not admitting that they need a CUP, and we're not backing down from the requirement, maintaining that they do need a CUP. But rather than fight over that issue, let's move the issue by applying for this waiver so that the pond remediation, which all of us want, can move forward.
And since we are adding conditions to this waiver, we're protecting the health and safety of the citizens of the county by applying these conditions here, as well as requirement for a conditional use permit moving forward, and getting the ponds remediated rather than having a dispute between our county and the UICN.
I don't question the need for the remediation or for the ponds, everything that they want to do. It's just, I really continue still to be at a loss as their resistance against applying for a conditional use permit, a simple process that could have been done months ago. The remediation would have been well underway by now, if not completed by now. For what? They applied for an appeal. The appeal process application cost money. A waiver, the conditional use permit, as I recall, is $350. $350. That's it. If that's a make or break for Utilities Inc., then they're in some serious trouble. I suspect it is not, because they're going through all of this and are willing to go to court over this. And I don't understand, I really, really don't understand why. I just don't.
Okay. You, yeah, it's you, Wendy.
I think they're the applicant, so I wasn't sure. We have done everything per the Nye County Code and agreement with Nye County Planning and other departments, other than the disagreement of the conditional use permit. Certainly, it is not the $350. The dust control permit, if my memory serves me right, was $8,000. I might be off on that number, so that's certainly not the issue. The issue that we came to were some of the terms on the conditional use permit. And what we did was sit down with the district attorney, with staff, with Commissioner Boraski, and talk very honestly and wholeheartedly about what their concerns were and how they could best be addressed and move this process forward as quickly as possible that met everybody's needs. And so that was the agreement we came to. The district attorney's office came up with the idea of the waiver, so we were proceeding along those lines of making a disagreement between two entities that seem to have a history of disagreeing just go away, be a moot point. We can now go forward and work together. We realize that regardless of other things that happen on that property, very likely that a conditional use permit will be needed and we will need to file for one. What our hope is, UICN's and I think the counties too, is that we can actually go forward with the developer's agreement and start developing this property in tandem to the benefit of the community. So what we're here asking today is to make a moot problem, and move forward with remediation of the ponds with terms that the county and UICN are both happy to comply with. If you want, I have a short presentation. If you want to see what we're doing on the property, if you want to skip that for the sake of time, that's fine. I very much thank you for this special meeting.
Any questions for the applicant?
Since the discussion's been brought up, the planning department is actually the applicant. I just want the verbal agreements that you do want this waiver, and that what's moving forward is not.
Yeah,
Just want another record.
I absolutely want this waiver. I didn't think we needed the conditional use permit, so I'm not waiving that argument. But I think that a wonderful thing has happened here with UICN and Nye County working in tandem to the benefit of the community. Let's go remediate the problem out there. Thank you.
I have another question. Have you read and do you agree to the conditions as stated in the staff report?
Yes, I do.
But thank you. For the record, Laura Bernier on behalf of UICN, we just want to be clear that the work being done, there is no work being done at Plant 3, which is owned by UICN. The work to be completed, if this waiver is granted, is all on the golf course property that will be Discovery Park, which is owned by UICN Real Estate Holdings.
Thank you. Do you have a problem with adding another condition that construction starts within 6 months?
No, sir, I would start as quickly as I could. I think that the longest range, and maybe Nye County can help with that, for the final permitting that I need is 14 days away. I will start as soon as I have my permits.
We'll add that condition.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, go ahead.
One other thing. If we're going to move forward on this, I would like to add an additional condition of approval that UICN initiate and pay for an application for a waiver. So they will be on record as asking for this.
I think we already have it on record that she wants it.
Commissioner King, I agree with what Chairman Koenig said. We do have an active application. It was filed by the county. They have stated on the record that they are in agreement with that. Are you concerned about $350 of the
No, I want them to do the same thing that any other applicant has to do when they're asking for a waiver.
If we were to do that, we would have to agendize another meeting, and if that's, if that's your intent, then that would prolong the process.
Chairman,
Bump this out by a
The
month.
process could have been finished last year.
We're trying to get it done today. That's
Chairman, if I may just add, the contracts are awarded. We can start as soon as I have all the permits, and you asked about your condition. I really think that we have a very good solution with the county and UICN working together that can make this happen almost tomorrow.
This time we'll open public comment. Is there any member of the public who would like to speak on this matter? If there is, come on forward. State your name, spell your last name, make sure the light's on. They're on the date. Again.
David Stevens again. My dealings with this people go way back, this utility incorporated. And believe me, if I was sitting up there, they wouldn't get nothing from me, no waiver or nothing, absolutely nothing. Make them come up to what they're supposed to do. And don't let them send me no water bill. Everything they do is send, and usually they got a half dozen lawyers up there. And you got a new prosecutor here, and she don't know nothing. They got the old prosecutor, knew what he was doing there, and he wouldn't be in here if the old prosecutor was there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens. Is there anyone else in the public who'd like to say something? Come on down. State your name and spell your last name, please.
Yes, my name is Drew Williams, Williams, and I live on the golf course, or used to live on the golf course. And we walk around those ponds, and if you don't do anything real quick, you're gonna have a real mess there. Those ponds are just breeding grounds over there, and they gotta be cleaned up. You can't wait for whatever you're gonna wait for, and let that stuff ferment out there, because it is a mess. And I also understand that you're planning on building a much larger pond out there, is that true?
I believe so. My understanding, they'll make one pond bigger and they have another pond.
Is there some reason why they need a bigger pond?
Well, you're not supposed to really. We'll see if we get an answer for that later.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Or any other member of the public like to comment? Seeing none, I'll put up.
My name is Gordon Call, C-A-L-L. I've got a question about where this new pond is going in. I'm looking at the papers, I'm looking at the schematics that they have in here, and I see these dotted lines, and they're saying these are affected properties and what have you. Is this new pond going to extend beyond where the current old golf course used to be? Is it going to go further out into this residential area? Are these homes that's going to be in that area? What's gonna happen to them? Or is this pond, this pipe?
It's gonna be within the confines of the golf course property.
Okay, so it is a 5-acre pond that's gonna stay within the golf course property. 5 acres. Then what is all this folderol in here about affected properties and impacted properties and dotted lines and extending out beyond the, what it is a bunch of confusion.
We have to notify people within a certain radius of anything that's gonna happen, because you could be affected by it.
How are they gonna get?
If they are affected by it, what are you gonna do about it?
probably won't be affected by the flood. Your neighbor wants to build a garage, we have to notify you. Anyone within 300 feet has to be notified, that's considered affected property. Just how it is.
Well, I know that no matter what they do with it, I'm going to be affected by it, and I live a long ways from where it is. Because I go out on my patio now, and the stench sometimes is so bad that you're about to throw up.
Hopefully, once it's done, you won't have the stench, and that'll be a good effect.
You put a 5-acre pond out there, it's gonna double it, to a 5-acre cesspool, is what you're gonna make. And that's gonna breed an awful lot of mosquitoes.
We'll let them answer that question in a minute.
Okay, well, needless to say, I'm concerned about the thing.
Would you want it to stay the way it is?
Pardon me?
Would you like it to stay the way it is? I don't think anyone wants it to stay the way it is.
What, the ponds?
Yeah, the sticky ponds that are there now.
Well,
Gotta get fixed.
I just got through with open heart or bypass surgery not too long ago, and I've been walking around the pond, the old golf course, and what used to be the back nine. There's one pond over there that you can't even see the water because the algae is so deep on it, it is a green algae pond. Those need to be cleaned up, true. But if you're gonna put another 5-acre pond in and let it do the same thing, what good is it gonna do? Thank you.
Well, for what you've worked for. How big is the new pond?
I think it is 5 acres, I'd have to look at the, it is. I think it is 5 acres, I'd have to look at the drawings, sir. Also, you probably didn't want to take the time for the whole presentation, but I have one slide that shows where the work is being done and what is being done, if that would be helpful for me to show for the public at some point, Chairman.
As soon as the public comments over, we'll do that.
My name is Francis McCluskey, McCloskey. I live on the corner of Eden and Upland. The side of my house faces Eden. And the other day I was out there, and my house is constantly being sprayed on with the height of the waters that are being sprayed off the golf course. I'm talking anywhere from 10 to 20 feet high. When the wind blows, it constantly comes over on my backyard, my eating area, and my windows. I was out the other day, and I was feeding a couple birds. When I came back in, I felt a spray on my face. My biggest concern is this water contaminated that is being sprayed up in the air. Is the water in these pools contaminated?
Yes.
I've been seeing signs all around the place saying about drinking, this or that, and everything else, don't go near the water. If this water is that bad in the ponds, why are they allowed to spray it up in the air? Is there any answer to this? Is this, I have a sample of this water and I sent it in, I got the little tube up at the Home Depot and I sent one in. I got a reply back saying that they would like me to send some more in for sampling. I have not done that yet, but I'm just really confused. Is this water contaminated or isn't? Can anybody answer?
It's contaminated.
Ms. Barnett?
The water that's being sprayed up in the air?
So the last time that we sampled the ponds, the big concern are fecal coliforming units, which are an indicator of worse bacteria. And those were within range. What we have agreed to as one of the special conditions with the county is that our sampling that we're required to do under the discharge permit for UIC and real estate holdings, the county will be copied on those sampling results, the daily monitoring reports, so that if there's ever a problem with the quality of the water, the county will be well aware of those issues and can work with UICN if necessary to take any measures that might be necessary. The water has been contaminated in the past, and that is the problem, and it can be contaminated again as long as those ponds remain unmaintained. And that's why we want to go in and get them cleaned up to the benefit of the community.
Well, again, my question wasn't concerning the pond itself, but the water that's being, I would imagine this water is coming out of the utility.
The water is coming out of the pond. That's where it comes from. But they move between the ponds and irrigate on the property, so.
I think this is something that should be considered. Because there's a lot of people living in this area, and health-wise, it just doesn't seem safe. Now, whether they could lower the sprinklers down or whatever, I don't know. Thank you.
Any other further public comments? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. Would you like to do the presentation now, please?
Would you like just the one slide, sir, or the entire presentation?
Show them what they're gonna get.
It's at the end of course. So this is a map of the entire golf course. And the area that we're primarily concerned with, if you see the green box, that is the UICN wastewater treatment plant 3. That is owned by UICN, and we are not doing anything at the plant property itself right now. Just a little bit to the northeast of that is where you will see the proposed changes to the receiving ponds, so that the current receiving pond would be enlarged and partitioned. And what that partition does is allow us, one, to remediate the part of the pond that needs to be remediated, but in the long run allows us to take one side off at a time for maintenance, so we're never in this position again of having an unmaintained pond that's gone stagnant. The 2 ponds then to the north of that will be abandoned, and at a later time we will be back here proposing rapid infiltration basins in those locations. The other ponds that you see there are all decorative ponds, and NDEP has requested that we put decorative fencing around those ponds. The ponds with the pump houses, the receiving pond, partitioned receiving pond with the pump houses, will actually be secured with security fencing. So it'll have a different look than the rest of the golf course. We did an irrigation assessment. We've done percolation assessments. We've done numerous assessments across the 160 acres where we're going to do the site stabilization and remediation work. And the irrigation system is in very bad condition. We did a back of the envelope calculation, and to put in irrigation on half of that property is $5 million. That is an option that you are not going to hear. And so we're looking in the future to do rapid infiltration basins and some limited irrigations. I think that the water shooting 20 feet in the air is a problem with the irrigation system that we have, and I have made a note and make sure that that's addressed by our workers that are out there. There are numerous problems with the irrigation system, but it certainly should not be spraying onto people's private backyards. And if it is, they are welcome to contact the utilities so that we can come make amends for that.
Okay, thank you. So basically, you're gonna put a new pond in, you're gonna take the existing stinky pond, empty that out into the new pond, remediate that pond so it's nice and clean, and let it fill back up. You need another pond to accomplish all of this, in simple terms.
Yes, that's true, and it also has the long-range benefit of being able to take one side of the pond offline for maintenance, so that we're never in this position again.
Right, because one reason we're in this is because you can't shut the pond down to fix it, because there's nowhere for the sewage to go.
And it would be an option, but it's very complicated and even more expensive.
You have anything else you'd like to add?
No, just, what? Oh. No, I just really want to thank you all for your consideration and having this special meeting. I think the county and UICN has come up with a way to get this done right now, and I thank you all for your consideration.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Cheryl Lacy, Mr. Carboni had to leave. He wanted me to ask UICN if they would accept one additional condition. Is that okay for me to bring this issue up?
What's that?
Go
Go ahead.
In the beginning of the agenda item here, it says future expansions and development of golf course we done under a CEP or development agreement. Several of the conditions that we had looked at were being postponed until this future CUP or development agreement. Mr. Ramon wanted to know if y'all would make any commitments as to time frame and when that would be done.
I would make a commitment. I'm thinking, Mr. Lacy, about what that could be. I think you're probably aware that we just filed, before the Public Utilities Commission of Nevada, a docket asking for determination on the rapid infiltration basins. And I cannot remember how long they have to make that determination. There's also the chance that they would deny it, although I think that's very slim. They're a wise group, and I think they see the benefits for rapid infiltration basins.
Did you make a commitment within a certain number of months following completion of that docket?
Yes, sir.
3 months?
Would you consider 6 months? I'll do it as fast as I can. Just sometimes engineering and permitting take longer than I want them to. Just, Mr. Lacy?
Yes.
I think that what I have agreed to, just to be clear for the record, is that within 6 months of getting permission from the Public Utilities Commission, that I will start construction of the rapid infiltration basins? Is that what you're asking of me, to be clear, sir?
And you agree that there's a CUP required for that, and that you will have to apply for the CUP within 6 months?
Or a development agreement. It is much my preference, if we can, Darrell, to continue along the lines of a developer agreement so that we're working in tandem for the development of that property.
Okay.
Anything else from the board?
Can I just ask what that condition was one more time for clarification? The condition is to start the rapid infiltration basins within 6 months of PUC and approval with the knowledge that a development agreement or conditional use permit is required?
Thank you. I think that we have to say that, what if we said, Darrell, that I would start it within 3 months of receiving all the approvals that I need? So I'll need an approval, a developer's agreement or a CUP, I'll need a grading permit, I'll need a site development plan. You know better what I need than I do. I'll probably need a surface disturbance permit from NDOT that I would start within 3 months of receiving all the approvals that I need.
Is that what you're looking for? Do you want,
I think that's fine.
or do you want the application for a development agreement within 6 months after the docket's agreement? You want the development agreement timed out, or do you want start on something timed out?
I can't hear, I'm sorry.
Can you define for myself and everyone here, what a rapid infiltration pond is?
Surely, in simple terms, it's just a recharge basin. It's constructed so that the water goes back in and goes through filtration into the groundwater, just a natural filtration process. They're used a lot of times, I believe, even Pahrump Utilities uses rapid infiltration basins, as does Desert Utilities. And we have tested the soil there to know that it has a good perk rate and will recharge.
Okay. Second question. Mr. McCluskey asked a question before. His issue was the aeration spray on his property. And of course, it has to be occurring on other nearby properties at the same time. Is there a way to shut down the aeration jets during times of high winds?
Not at this time, but the rapid infiltration basins would give us a way to do that. The wastewater treatment plant discharges continual treated effluent, and so we have to have a way to discharge that. But what we can do is go change the heads so that they're not spraying 20 feet in the air for the wind to catch it and throw it onto private property. And so I made a note specifically about Eaton and Upland to have my field people that work out there to go check the sprinkler heads in that area. When rapid infiltration basins are installed, then we have a lot more flexibility in how we move water through the property, and then we could be able to do that.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, that can be addressed before the pond gets remediated.
Just to follow up on that.
Go ahead.
On the water that's being sprayed in the air, is that treated effluent that's being put out as irrigation? Okay, so you're not using aeration to treat the effluent?
All the treatment of the effluent happens at the wastewater treatment plant. So nothing, especially right now, is happening on the 160-acre former golf course property. So when we go in and start remediating the property and the ponds, aeration will happen at the ponds, but that should happen at any pond regardless of whether it's reclaimed water or tap water. So you'll see that, I think, even here at the Calvada Eye ponds. But no, we're not using aeration for treatment. We are using irrigation to disperse the recycled water.
So what is the, as far as the content of bad, I think they call it chloroform bacteria, whatever, that, what is the content of the water that would be spraying on these homes?
So the discharge permit for Plant 3 is separate from the discharge permit from the property. The Plant 3 treats reclaimed water to a Category B, which means that it cannot have more than 2.3 fecal coliforming units as an average, as a geometric average. So that's what's required by the permit from NDEP.
So the irrigation water or the treated effluent that's spraying on Mr. Williams's house, is there any health hazard in that?
There, as I said, we sampled when we took ownership, and there was not health hazard at that time. But until we go remediate those ponds, absolutely, those ponds can turn sour again. We need to get the work done.
Any other questions or comments?
I have a quick question, Mr. Chairman, for staff. Since a development agreement does not come before the Regional Planning Commission, is there an actual application that is filled out and applied for?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
This time I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve waiver WV-2015-000003 based upon the findings as shown on page 2 and subject to the special conditions of approval as outlined in the staff report, adding special condition number 4, that they start remediation of the ponds within 6 months, and special condition number 5, that they apply for a development agreement or a conditional use permit within 6 months of a PUC in order on the ribs as described by UICM.
I have a motion to approve WV-2015-50-3. Do I have a second? Second. I have a motion and a second to approve WV-2015-50-3. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll take a vote, starting with Commissioner Adams.
Aye. Aye.
No.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. No.
2 to 5 passes. Go move dirt, please.
Thank you.